Okay, so in that last video we finished the animation. We had the simulation going all correctly. So in this video we actually need to talk about the setting up the parameters for the slow motion effects, and we're also going to set up the materials and the rendering. So at this particular point you could go to render and render out your video, and that would be perfectly fine. You'd get probably about 5 seconds worth of video. But what we actually need to do is, before we do that, is we need to change the frame rate per second. So by default, you got about 30 frames a second. Now, when you putting this into a post program like After Effects, for instance, we need more frame rates per second in order to get a more smoother transaction when it comes to producing the slow motion effect. So to do that, we're actually going to go to the time controls down here in the bottom right. I'm going to choose custom, and you see, like I said before, it's going to be set at 30 frames a second. Now we're going to alter this to a higher value. I'm going to choose around about 480. Now you can use any number you want. The higher this value is, the better the transaction, especially is when it comes to creating the slow motion. So, you know, if you really wanted to go to the high extremes, you could probably put it to about 1,000 frames a second. Yeah, about 1,000 frames per second. But then you also have to notice that when I click this, you see this timeline here will increase to about 1,000 frames. So, you know, when you're rendering out your animation, you will actually be rendering 1,000 frames. So you can see here. Oh, did that apply? Did it go? 480 is okay. Yeah, there we go. So now you can see that the frames are about, here we go, this one's about 2,000 frames now for about 5 seconds worth of video, and this is important in order to get a better transition. So I'm perhaps going to dial this down a little bit to, let's see, we're at 200. Okay, so I'm going to add 200 frames per second. It's going to be just over 1,000 frames for about 5 frames. For about 5 seconds worth of video here. So once that's done, you now need to set up the materials. So this can't be more straightforward. I'm going to be using V-Ray. Now you can get exactly the same results as the one in the video shown at the beginning of this tutorial by using Mental Ray. But I'm going to be using V-Ray. So I'm going to go down to render setup. I'm going to make sure that V-Ray is selected. So you can do this by going assign renderer and choose V-Ray from in here. I'm going to press M and I'm going to create the glass material. So let's see, I'm going to choose standard and I'm going to go down to V-Ray material. So let's see. Okay, so this is going to be the glass. I'm going to put this to a more white-like effect. Bring the reflection down a little. So let's see, how much shall we go here? I'm going to go to about an almost white effect, but not totally white. Actually, perhaps maybe just a little bit darker. So, okay, yeah, so something like this, and I'm also going to bring the refractions down, and yeah, so yeah, that's essentially it for the glass. That's all I'm going to do for the glass material here. I'm going to select the all the fragments, which is okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is the bullet. So I'm going to select this. Again, another V-Ray material, so I'm going to choose oops, chose the wrong one then, I think. Yep, V-Ray material. I'm going to give this, let's see, what kind of value do we want? A somewhat of a kind of brownish type of effect with a bit of reflection, and some glossiness there. So what I can do is at this point is create a test render of what we're getting. I'm not interested in it shattering just yet, so let's see, render setup, just do a single frame here, and I'm going to enable save frame. Set up a custom frame size. Choose render, and let's just see. Oh, okay, so we need to set up a floor. So I'm gonna go to standard primitives. I'm gonna drag out a plane object here. Let's see. I'm going to convert this to an editable polygon, and let's see what's going on here. Okay, need to add some segments, so I'm going to choose to so what I'm doing is I'm creating a similar kind of setup to what you may see in a like a studio type environment. So just going to take a moment here. So once that's set up, I'm going to add a turbo smooth to this, just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And we actually need to rotate this. To the other side. Okay, so let's make a background for this and set up the lights, and then we can create a test render. So I'm going to select a new slot and type background, and all I'm going to add there is a gradient, and I'm going to swap these about. Choose swap. Make this not as dark, and assign this to the background floor plane, and finally I'm going to add the light. So let's see, I'm going to add a view area light. I'm going to put this on a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to decrease the brightness. And once that's done, we should hopefully get to preview how the animations begin to look. The light may be a little bit too bright. Let's see, just for this test render, I'm going to just really decrease the size here. So we can see the glass there. It's just this light is way too bright. I thought I'd change this down to about 5, but I obviously didn't, and I've done that. So okay, so we're getting the right colours here. It doesn't look as if the background applied though to this material. So do we need to swap this? Perhaps just make this a little bit darker. So I'm just playing around with this background just to get the right look here. So okay, so that looks similar to how we had our how I had the setup video. So we can actually test what the shadow's actually going to look like right about now. So okay, yeah, so we're getting pretty close here to what's the initial video look like. Let's see. So let's go to render setup and increase this so it's just a little bit better on the video to see. Remember, this doesn't look like that that many pieces, so again you could always re-edit the initial amount of particles here. Simply just by going down to the birth amount, and let's see, we could just have an extra 0 on there. Actually, also like to note that well, it looks not exactly like the video. Every time the simulation is done with Rayfire, the breakage points will always be different. So also by increasing or decreasing the speed and so I think I'm just gonna leave this how this is actually looking at the moment. Like I said, as you can see, just playing around with some of these settings are going to give you a better look. It's really up to you, but remember, the more particles you have, the longer it is actually going to take to render, and this scene will take a few hours to render, just mainly down to the amount of particles, and for instance, the fact that you're rendering out glass, which is highly reflective. So you see, this is somewhat similar to the original that I had set up. So I'm going to cancel this, as you can see what's actually going on. What you want to do is you'll go to render setup, and you can choose to add choose the frames, so 0 to how many frames you want to render it along the bottom, and you can set up the render size. You can add the files, create an output here, and you can also, if you want to, add render elements, so you can add Z depths and alpha channels and stuff like that in here. And once that's done, you click render, and you have your final video output. Then we'd move on to After Effects. So with that said, the next part of this video will be inside After Effects. Thank you very much, and I will see you there.